Nag-practice po ako na siguro 6 years old po ako, nag-practice po ako magpa-berry. Nilalamig na, ganun. Nararanasan na rin po namin ang para po bagang nangangapal po ang aming katawan na nangangaligkig. Parang hanggang yun na po ang naisip ko na pwedeng panghanap buhay para po may makain dito, makain po sa...
Thousands of children across the Philippines are engaged in small-scale gold mining. This type of work exposes these children to all sorts of danger. Many of them work underground, many of them work underwater, and many of them handle toxic substances. In March of this year, the government banned underwater mining and the use of mercury in small-scale mining. The government also bans the worst forms of child labor, but turns a blind eye to enforcing the law.
Simula pa ako magkabud ng 11 years old pa lang po ako. Apat na taon po kasi ako nag-drop. Dahil po sa kabud.
Some of these children work in pits 25 meters deep where air is too thin to breathe without oxygen pumps.
Nung unang pinapasukan ko po, nasa 60 feet. Ang ano lang po doon, may blower para hindi malason yung tao sa ilalim.
Nung unang lusong ko po sa balon, 14 years old po ako. Siyempre unang lusong ko po, natatakot po ako ay hindi ka makontento at inisip mo pag yung balon. Siyempre nakatakot baga po. Tapos pa nag-aaral ka sa ilalim, kakano rin yung mga gatak-gatak, sabi mga bato. Dapat lagi mong titingnan nyo, tapos po ng timber para safe yung tao sa ilalim pag nalusong.
Minsan po, nag-aayos kami sa ilalim, nagbababa sila ng kahoy, nakalag yung pagkatali sa kahoy, bumagsak po dun sa balon. Buti na lang po at nakatago kami, kung hindi, patay na po siguro.
In September 2014, a 17-year-old boy and his adult brother died in an underground mine in Barangay Malaya.
Hindi, mabaho po yun. Nagpasok po yung dalawa, kaya nalason po. Nililimas po yun, hindi pa inaanohan ng blower, pinasok na po. Kaya po nalason.
Because much of the gold deposits in the Philippines are below the water table, a unique process that is called compressor mining has evolved. This involves the use of compressors on the surface where a tube is attached, and through this tube, the miners would breathe. Most of the compressor miners are men, but some of them are children. Gaano ka katagal doon sa ilalim?
Isang oras na po.
Isang oras. Tapos mahirap pang paghinga? Ano?
Malakas po ang
Compressor miners may spend up to 3 hours as deep as 10 meters digging ore. Somebody from the surface would bring up the ores in sacks and give these to the other miners on the surface who would then eventually pan for gold. There have been instances when compressor miners drowned, and there have also been instances when the compressor itself stopped working, thus depriving the miners below oxygen. Compressor miners are also at risk of decompression sickness, and many of the miners are vulnerable to skin diseases from the bacteria underwater. Besides the obvious risk of accidents, there is a more hidden, secret danger of mining, which is the use of mercury. Mercury is a toxic liquid metal that attracts gold particles and separates it from the sand and other elements, forming an amalgam.
di lalagay niyo po ng asugi, and then papabirikin na po, ilalagay na pagkakawali po nun, ilalagay po sa paberik, tapos papabirikin na po. Ang makukuha mo lang po dapat sa paberik, asugi po na may ginto. Pagka naging asugi na po yun, maaari nyo na pong pigain, tapos magiging ginto na po. Kapag po naging ginto, pwede nyo na pong lutuin. Pag po naluto na, pwede nyo na po itimbang.
When this amalgam is burned using a blowtorch, the mercury evaporates into poisonous gas, leaving behind raw gold. Mercury attacks the central nervous system and can cause lifelong disability, including brain damage and even death. It is particularly harmful to children whose systems are still developing. In the mining village of Malaya, we observe light gray mercury from whole ore processing plants flowing directly into the river where children play. Although the government bans the use of mercury, this ban has not been enforced.
You cannot go every day on the field to monitor all the activities. That is a fact. Now, we have a very limited number of technical personnel, and of course we cannot afford to stay overnight or even monitor all the activities of one small area.
Under Philippine law, the government can designate specific areas where small-scale mining is permitted. These areas are called Minahang Bayan, or People's Mining Areas. With more legal mines, there could be better government control over child labor and mercury use. But the new policy could also delay action on child labor and environmental harm for years until the new Minahang Bayan areas are finally in place.
Once we have this Minahang Bayan, it will now be regularly monitored by our technical personnel on the field and by our regional personnel.
Child labor is a product of poverty. Therefore, the government should provide poor, vulnerable families with support to enable them to send their children to school. The government should ratify the Minamata Convention on Mercury, and it should also introduce mercury-free gold processing methods. In the long term, it needs to create a legalized, regulated, child labor-free mining sector that helps rural families survive.